You're winding me up! Take this and that! Ah!
So now seemingly the tables have turned. Now white people are in fact talking more and more about racism towards them. They're feeling experiences of racism, experiences of them being labelled as racist or DEI or things that would actually make them start to feel like a minority. Now, we've had this experience for many, many years. And dialogue is what was always needed. And I believe, as obviously a Christian first, I believe that we need to talk and we need to understand where our Caucasian brothers and sisters are coming from. Because then this leads to a deeper understanding. We totally understand because we've been there. We've experienced this. Now, there are many statements from many young men and women who say that they feel like a stranger in their own homes. And when we go to places like Whitechapel or Mile End and things, Bradford, for example, you can see a certain reason as to why they would be feeling that. Not that that's a bad thing. We believe that progression is the way of human life. And we choose to progress. Now, there are many historical context matters. We all know back in the days there was slavery, segregation, racist wars, Notting Hill, even going far across the pond to the beatings of, blacks and Martin Luther King. And we know all about that. But if a white person was to come to me to say, hold on, I'm feeling a certain way here, I understand. Because I've been there in more ways than one. I could actually probably get into their shoes and understand exactly what they're talking about. Now, it's a horrible feeling to feel left out, or to feel like you don't have a voice, or to feel that you are being subjugated to discrimination. These are things that cause more than just a temporary glitch in the psyche of the person. It's a trauma. We've experienced traumas for many, many years. But if I expect someone like Keir Starmer to understand my plea, it would never happen. He cannot experience what he has never experienced. He cannot understand what he has never experienced. He cannot get into the shoes of a black man. He cannot understand the microaggressions of past and present. He cannot understand that because he's never experienced it. And much as he may try, he will still never experience it. I'll give you an example. My brother has a son who is of mixed race. And his son had an altercation with a teacher regarding a black pupil. And my brother's son said as a joke, "Oh, this colour's like you," as a joke. Now the teacher, who being Caucasian, a young guy, jumped up and was all irritated and was eager to correct this young biracial boy who just said it was just a joke. It was a joke that we always play around like that. And the teacher pulled him on front and started to talk to him about racism. So that there's a certain point where you hear about someone talking about racism who actually has experienced it, and someone who's just reacting from a theoretical point of view. And so we thought to ourselves that this was a little bit exaggerated. Now, when I hear the British and the English speaking about, they're feeling some way unfairly treated, I think there's grounds to be listened to. Because, of course, reality comes to everybody. But if a person is saying that, hold on a minute, how comes I'm born in this country? This is my heritage. This is my ancestral roots. Goes back many, many years. And how comes a so-called foreigner can come in and get housing over me? My parents fought in the war. I grew up here. I'm an Anglo-Saxon. My family tree dates back hundreds and hundreds of years. Can you then understand the irritation that that person would be feeling? Now, because I've been in that situation, I've experienced that kind of discrimination, I could understand. And sometimes it's not always perfect understanding. It's being able to empathize with what they are going through. Now, this is not to say that we have not gone through that. We've gone through that for many, many years. In fact, I would go as far as to say it is possibly within our DNA, this trauma of, not being accepted. But it doesn't mean that I would ignore what is happening. And which leads me on to the fact that someone like Keir Starmer and leaders of the MP who are English should understand how they're treating their own subjects, to a point where they are being discriminated and they're speaking out and you do not listen or you do not pay attention. There are rumours, actually. Even if you look back in history, you see that this has never ended well. There's always been some form of discrimination where it comes to a boiling point and then civil war ensues. We don't want anything in resemblance to things like, the religious wars in Northern Africa, or, the Buddhists or the Christians and fighting and to the death. We don't want that here. And I believe it takes empathizing with each other. So now we could say, I believe God works in mysterious ways. Because this is how now I think a lot of Caucasians are feeling in certain areas racism or discrimination. They're feeling they're not being heard. And so if we reverse it and come back and say, okay, do you understand slightly how I feel? Now, someone who has empathy will say, yeah, you know what, I do. It feels bad. I remember the experiment that the lady done. I can't remember her name again. I think Barbara or something. She did an experiment with a green eye, blue eye child and, how they were treated. And, you should watch it. I'll put the link down below. She wanted white people to understand what black people have been going through and still go through. So we talk about both sides here. Now, as a Christian, we are, our duty really is to know the truth, because the truth will inevitably set us free. Now, many racial issues are not taught in school because I believe personally it should not be taught in a way that the school would teach it. And I believe it should come in a way where someone of that colour should be talking to the children about this history, horrible though it may be. We have to understand that we must find a way to move on and to some degree forgive, and to some degree ask for forgiveness. It works both ways. I saw a beautiful thing. Now, some of you may not agree with me, and it's fine, but I saw a beautiful thing in America where a whole bunch of white European Americans came up to a banner and got on their knees and said, listen, I'm sorry for what my ancestors did to your people. Because, let's face it, they experienced a horrendous, I mean, we think the Holocaust was bad. This was something I could not imagine. And that goes through epigenetics from one generation to the next. And the Caucasian Europeans went up and apologized and got on their knees and said, listen, we are really sorry. And I felt so proud and had so much hope for the human race. Because effectively, that's what we need. Now, I may be wrong, but I believe that that's really all black people want to hear. So I understand and I empathize with people in the UK who are feeling somewhat subjected to discrimination, let alone some racism to a certain degree. So I totally understand how, you know, an English person could feel that they are being pushed down while they're raising other people and giving people jobs and opportunities just based on their colour. But I think we need to go deeper. I think we need to ask, who is implementing these laws or these systems? You see, the people we're dealing with, they don't care about black or white. They care about control. And if I can make a little bit of a dent within everyone who's watching this, to make them understand the bigger picture, that it's not about black, it's not about white. It's about who controls the narrative. And it's about how can we, in fact, bring these people together to clash? Because once they clash, we then can create laws that would favour the outcome, which is control. If I can make a little dent. Now, going back, who brings these laws into place? Who said, for example, that Baba Black Sheep should be revised and brought forward because it's a racist song, nursery rhyme? Who implemented the introduction of people coming in hundreds of thousands at a time? Who created laws so people could not even express, didn't have the ability to express how they truly felt? There's offensive laws. Who created all these things? And once we peel the proverbial onion, sorry, I'm getting a bit thespianish here. But once we unpack who is truly in control, our eyes will be opened to realize that, in fact, we are all in the same boat. We are all on the same boat, where we live in a capitalistic society. I want to break it down. I don't want to talk in, capitalistics and all these jargon, this political jargon. But I just want to say that people don't care so long as you have money. We see Nigel Farage, for example, with Reform UK. And with money, look at where he is and look at who is speaking for him. Now, I have no disdain or dislike for anyone, but your party stood for, really was quite far right in its direction. What brought you? What made you accept and didn't see the blossoming of English workers and economy and businesses and flourishing small businesses in the UK by English people? And we know what you meant when you said that. So now it seems a little bit contradictory to your original narrative. Why? And so it's truly, once we get to understand what the game is about, because it is a game, we are pawns on the table that they play. And we have to understand that. The agenda is to get us fighting, so they can take control through laws, through military, and things of that nature. How is it that you, as an English person, cannot feel comfortable in your own home when your leaders are of the same hue as you? They look like you. They have the same bloodline like you. They have possibly the same or similar experiences that you have. A black person could possibly never understand going into a place up, north and not experiencing, a certain apprehension of where they should go. But now they do, because there is quite a lot of racism against white people. And I see it. And the thing is, I've had some really quite nasty emails saying I'm an Uncle Tom or I'm a house negroid. And to me, I understand your pain as well. Because if I was stuck in that mentality, I would be also like, hold on, this is a guy who's talking like a coconut. But I want to look at it through a Christian perspective. Now, when I understand the Bible like I think I do, I realize that, in fact, now when I understand Jacob and Esau came out of the same woman. Now, I may be incorrect. I doubt it, but I may be incorrect. And so the question is, who was Esau? Are we, or could we be, in fact, related? Could Esau be my white brother? From what I understood as I read it and I broke it down, I believe this to be true. So this puts us in a precarious position, like one would in a family, where we would have quarrels with our siblings. And it goes a lot deeper, but I don't want to get biblical. But in fact, this has been a war that has been going on from the beginning of time. Mainly blacks versus the whites. So when I see someone like Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer, Nigel Farage in particular, he shocked me very much because I thought he was absolutely pro-English. And then you have Mr. Robinson, Tommy Robinson, who was speaking really as a person who was far right. And maybe probably still is, but he has lots of Muslim friends and now has affiliations with Israel. Don't hear too much of him now. But you see, money buys favor. Money can cover the eyes of many wrongs, a multitude of sins. So when we see now, and I hear and I feel the energy in the UK, the people are irritated. And now we have this new, I think is a policy that's coming out that's, anti-offensive or hostility czar towards our Muslim counterparts. Now, for me, when I look at the UK, I see the UK as being very open and accepting. But now times have changed. And why? Again, this is another thing to think of. The way the economy is going, housing, wages, food. You see, these people who are in charge of us are incredibly intelligent human beings, if we can even call them that. Incredibly intelligent. That they know, they're masters of psychology. And they know what strings to pull and what pressure points to hit. So if you imagine this, because I remember growing up in the East End of London, and we did have racist incidences, and it was horrible. It was not nice. But I have, in all honesty, a lot more pleasant experiences than I have negative ones. I probably couldn't say that if I was living in the USA. But let's be honest. I've had more Caucasian people help me than any other people. And that's just being honest. That doesn't mean I am against black people, my colour people. And even that, my people, my brother, all that's changed. I want to ask people this. Excuse me a second. It's my Lulu. She's a beautiful little creature. I don't know where she's thinking. Do you want to say hello to the people? Say hello. Right, let's get that. Now, I truly believe that we have to understand each other to a certain degree. We really have to understand each other because we are, in fact, going to turn each other around. I'm going to say this, right? There is a connection with black people that probably no other race will understand. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced this as a black person, but you know, when you walk somewhere, you walk down the street and you see another black person, we always used to, almost 100%, when we'd lock eye contact, we'd always go, like we acknowledged each other. Now, could you imagine if people did that in the UK? All the time. They'd be like, all over the place. And again, we could say because obviously, you know, white people in Africa, do they acknowledge each other? I don't think they acknowledge each other like that. They probably see a white person and see that, okay, this a white person. But there's something spiritual about the black person, I truly believe. And I truly believe that we've done wrong by our God. And we have or are being punished. But I think the time is changing now, because we can see truth coming to light. And I'm no theologian, I'm no medical expert, but I've been around the world and I've lived a long time. Now, I want to urge every Caucasian person who's watching this, please try to not colorize everything. Try not to, because it's very difficult, because you're being programmed to do that. Now we see, with all fairness, we see the media is always pushed certain narratives because they want to see war. They want to see war. They want to see us fighting. They do not want peace. Before immigrants came, there was an issue with immigrants. We were getting them fine, especially in the UK. Now, we always looked across the water and we would say, yeah, you know what, they're really, really bad there. To a point where, you know, people were torn with the guy who was killed at some point. What's his name again? I can't breathe guy. With George Floyd. I remember he was saying, I can't breathe. We saw literally the lynching of someone who a lot of Caucasian people were horrified to see. Were absolutely horrified. And I heard it and they protested for that. That tells me that they still had this reasoning for human life. But that was too good for the media and the elites and the 1%ers. And so now they had to really cause us to hate each other. I just want you to just see it from my point of view, or people who look like me. Not everyone thinks like me as well. But then it was just too good. The peace was just too good in the UK. We had to do something to cause an unrest. Now we started to bring in people from, you know, places like Africa, Afghanistan and things of that nature. But, you know, Ethiopia, and then really just go all out with negative news on Ethiopians and blacks. So wherever we saw something, especially if it was towards a white people, because we do see colour. I see colour. Because if that was the case, when I went to a place, I'd just go in, you know, blindly without knowing that, hold on a minute, I'm a black person. I need to be careful. Okay, this is a place I would not go. Certain parts of America I wouldn't go. So I just urge you to really try to understand. We can get on with each other. Absolutely. As soon as we know who is causing the stirring and the this whole propaganda, who's causing the propaganda, we will begin to understand. You see, they feed off on our negative energy, our hatred for each other, our disdain, our fear. They feed off on that. And maybe I've been brought by, you know, God above to kind of explain and to make people understand that we need to look beyond what we see. There's elements that causes dissension and hate to a point even unaliving. We're going to talk more about this. And to be honest with you, I truly believe there is hope for humankind. But we need to understand that at this particular time, we are winding up Britain.
You're winding me up! Take this and that! Ah!